So just about half an hour to go for Prime Minister Narendra Modi's mega address to the nation. This will be his 9th address to the nation. The Prime Minister is to speak at 5 p.m. perhaps on the government's vaccination policy. It has been criticized by states and experts. And as number of COVID cases dip in the country, states have begun to unlock. They are relaxing curbs. The Prime Minister may speak on possible unlock, of course advising people not to lower their guard. He may also he's also likely to present the roadmap for vaccination ahead. The government is also preparing to deal with the third wave. Will there be a stimulus package to boost economy, which recorded its worst growth rate in 2021 because of the pandemic, remains to be seen. The Prime Minister has addressed the nation 8 times in his second term. Last time he spoke to the country, it was on the 20th of April, where he stressed upon the need to stand together and follow COVID-appropriate behavior to battle the second wave. The Prime Minister has stressed on COVID-appropriate behavior. Let's recap the times that the Prime Minister reminded India that it's extremely important to remain masked up and maintain social distancing.
कोरोना के इस संकट काल में कोरोना के बचने के जो भी उपाय है, कृपया करके उनका पालन 100% करिए। दवाई भी, कड़ाई भी, इस मंत्र को कभी भी भूलना नहीं है। ये मंत्र जरूरी है, वैक्सीन के बाद भी जरूरी है। हमारे डॉक्टर, नर्स, पैरामेडिकल स्टाफ और दूसरे फ्रंटलाइन वर्कर्स, उन्होंने मानवता के प्रति अपने दायित्व को प्राथमिकता दी। सैकड़ों साथी ऐसे भी हैं जो कभी घर वापस लौट ही नहीं आ पाए। उन्होंने एक जीवन को बचाने के लिए अपना जीवन आहुत कर दिया। ये समय लापरवाह होने का नहीं है। ये समय ये मान लेने का नहीं है कि कोरोना चला गया या फिर अब कोरोना से कोई खतरा नहीं है। अगर आप लापरवाही बरत रहे हैं, बिना मास्क के बाहर निकल रहे हैं, तो आप अपने आप को, अपने परिवार को, अपने परिवार के बच्चों को, बुजुर्गों को उतने ही बड़े संकट में डाल रहे हैं।
I quickly want to bring in our colleagues Kamaljeet Kaur Sandhu and Rahul Srivastava for more on the story. Kamal, the biggest challenge perhaps that the country faces, 1, vaccination, 2, revival of economy. What's the Prime Minister likely to stress on, Kamal?
Well, the last 2 years have been difficult years, and they have been COVID years. Right from health to economic crisis, we've been moving from one challenge to the other, and each is equally important because one is about life, the other is about livelihood. Both need to be addressed. The GDP figures itself are very astounding. Things don't look very bright. In the past, we've seen that India had a definitive growth. That has now been blocked quite a lot by the COVID. And also, since there have been shops which have been closed, there have been businesses which have been impacted. All this is part of reality now. People are suffering health-wise, people are suffering economic-wise. There is inflation, there are high prices. There's talk about how a petrol and fuel hike is causing a lot of trouble. So all these are issues which need to be addressed, but maximum of it is the third wave, which is still impending. Now, there have been heavy criticism of the handling of second wave of crisis. This is where the government is being blamed both by opposition and the experts for poor handling, whether it's about the health infrastructure, whether it's about the vaccination. Because remember, the initial part was where India did fairly much better comparatively when they were addressing healthline workers, frontline workers. They were also addressing issues about vaccination. Now, with paucity of vaccination, several states try to procure it globally.
Okay.
They've actually now met with difficulties. Again, the onus has been now put on the centre, with several state CMs saying the centre should procure them and hand them over so that they can decentralize it and effectively
That's
the
a
states can be
very
in charge.
important point
So
that
there
you
has
raised
to
there,
be a
Kamal.
deep
Let me
thought
bring in Rahul
process.
Srivastav for more on this. So Rahul, a lot of states have now said, let centre procure the vaccines, give it to states and leave administration to the states. Now, is there likely to be a policy reversal, and is this a U-turn then by the centre or the states?
Gaurav, the policy change in vaccination in terms of centre moving back a bit as a central procurer and provider was changed following demands from virtually every state in the country, which is ruled by opposition and others, that the state should be given a sense of autonomy as far as vaccine procurement and distribution is concerned. So it was not something which was a centrally driven necessarily exercise. Yes, one can say that the assessment was not proper in terms between and coordination between central state, that how it will come about. But that is why the policy was changed, so that the centre should not, one, financially get overburdened, and second, overburdened with a centralized kind of idea. There was a bit of politics also, you know, that in it, where everybody wanted to take credit for that vaccine exercise.
Yes.
But after the move was announced by the centre and there was a policy change, there was a clearance from the states and a view that they are not able to procure. What is very surprising is why, when they were demanding that there should be vaccine decentralization and procurement, why nobody explored what will be the future like. But anyway, that is past. Yes, one of the key issues now is that the centre will have to return, means there has to be a policy reversal. Now that again, it's not that the centre is alone doing it.
Okay.
It is something that is the need of the hour, demanded by virtually every state. Naveen Patnaik, even Chief Minister Odisha, going on record with a letter signing campaign that centre should procure centrally and decentralize distribution. And that is
Stay
why
with me, Rahul.
one can say it's
Yes.
a very, very collective failure or a collective effort.
Okay, stay with me, Rahul and Kamaljeet. What are the big challenges that the country faces at this point of time, and challenges that need to be addressed by the Prime Minister? Vaccine hesitancy remains a cause for concern. Rahul was just talking about the centre-state friction. That again is a cause for concern. Public complacency as India unlocks. The spike in the second wave to a large extent was also blamed on public complacency and COVID-appropriate behavior not being followed. The second wave cases and death toll still remains a cause for grave concern. We've had about 3,49,000 deaths in our country. And now, unfortunately, COVID's also spreading to rural areas. So COVID's rural devastation, again, is something that needs to be addressed. Battle plan to avert or minimize the impact of the third wave, and this again can happen only if the first part is addressed effectively, and that is speedy vaccination, again where hesitancy remains a cause for concern. All efforts have to be made both by the centre and the states, and of course people, to ensure that there is no repeat of the second wave horror. The biggest defense against the pandemic is vaccination. Almost all experts across the country are saying that. India's vaccine drive has stuttered. It stuttered initially. During the second wave, there was a cause for concern. It now appears to be picking up. The centre has set the December 2021 as the deadline, saying that India will have 216 crore doses and 100 crore people will be vaccinated.
आज के दिन का पूरे देश को बेसब्री से इंतजार रहा है। अब से कुछ ही मिनट बाद भारत में दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा टीकाकरण अभियान शुरू होने जा रहा है। वैक्सीन क्यों वेस्टेज हो रही है, इसकी भी राज्यों में समीक्षा होनी चाहिए और मैं मानता हूं हर रोज शाम को इसके मॉनिटरिंग की व्यवस्था रहनी चाहिए। वैक्सीन की अप्रूवल्स और रेगुलेटरी प्रोसेसेस को फास्ट ट्रैक पर रखने के साथ ही सभी साइंटिफिक और रेगुलेटरी मदद को बढ़ाया गया है।
Vaccination is key, and Rahul, while some say that India hasn't done all that well, the government continues to insist that they've done extremely well. I mean, look at what Dr. V.K. Paul is saying. Dr. V.K. Paul is saying that India took 141 days to reach the 23 crore mark in terms of cumulative doses administered, which remains the second highest in the world after the United States of America. So he's saying when you look at the bigger picture, India has done well. Opposition criticism, and that's the question, is opposition criticism purely politics?
Gaurav, vaccination and a pandemic are a very different ballgame altogether. Now, if you see American US population, for herd immunity, America has to vaccinate way less number of people than what it has. So if it vaccinates 70% of its people in a certain period of time, it might do it in lesser time than India. The time is of the essence, Gaurav. The point is that the American 70% population is so little that it can do it in a slightly longer period. So India may have vaccinated more, but to reach that 70% for herd immunity inoculation mark, India needs to vaccinate 94.5 crore people twice. That means something close to 190 crore vaccinations are required. 141 days, 23 crore vaccinations done, 15 lakh per day is the vaccination rate, means you will take 3.5 years. If you want to speed it up, you have to touch 1 crore every day. So it's a story which side of the fence you're looking at, or which part of the glass you're looking at, half full or half empty.
And Prakash Javadekar, Kamaljeet Kaur Sandhu, the Information and Broadcasting Minister, said that by December 31, India will have 216 crore doses, enough to jab 100 crore people. Now, is that being very optimistic? Because on days we've touched about 30 lakh jabs a day, but how are we averaging on jabs, and how is it being increased to touch not just 50 lakh a day mark, but 1 crore a day mark?
Well, that's a benchmark which has been set by the government. But before that, it was stated by the health ministry officials right here in Media Center. They were optimistic that the global vaccine diplomacy that India was doing will pay dividends. And eventually, from Moderna, Pfizer to Sputnik, all these vaccines will be available. Some of them obviously paid for. The rest, Covishield and Covaxin, are being made available in the Indian markets. Now, there has been criticism that the private hospitals do have the dosage, but the government health departments are the ones who are failing to procure them. There's also been allegations of profiteering, whether it's by the agencies or by the government. So those are allegations which are being leveled, but greatly the challenge is immense. Indian government's job is to ensure that each and every person is vaccinated. If there is hesitancy, that is done away with. There is information campaign, there is on-ground effective measures taken place, whether it's the rural health. We travel to Punjab, we've traveled to Chhattisgarh and even to Odisha. So we know that when it goes to rural areas, there is a great deal of hesitancy. That now needs to be addressed. Now we are talking about
you've
other
raised
issues.
a very important point, Kamal, that it's available in private hospitals but not with state governments. And I'll come back to you with that question and to Rahul Srivastav. But what is it that the nation is looking at this point of time? What is it that the Prime Minister must promise to deliver? Well, is the government fully prepared to deal with the next wave? Vaccine shortage, will it actually end soon? Will our political leaders set an example for the public? Will they lead by example? Will the administration ensure that there is strict enforcement of COVID-appropriate behavior? The biggest issue at this point of time, especially for parents, is speed up vaccines for children. Will the government fine-tune treatment protocols? It appears to be work in progress, but will that actually happen? Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been talking about the contribution made by India's scientists and doctors and health workers and frontline workers, and he said without their contribution, we wouldn't have reached where we are in terms of saving lives. They've played a key role, a major role in saving lives, often at the cost of their own lives.
इस वायरस ने हमारे कई अपनों को हमसे छीना है। मैं उन सभी लोगों को अपनी विनम्र श्रद्धांजलि देता हूं और उनके परिजनों के प्रति सांत्वना व्यक्त करता हूं।